Imagine losing everything: your kingdom, your army, your freedom. You're captured by a powerful enemy, taken hundreds of kilometers away from home, and forced to serve the very empire that destroyed your world. Most people would surrender to fate, but two brothers did something extraordinary. They escaped, they returned, and they built one of the greatest empires India had ever seen. This is the incredible story of Harihara and Bukka, the founders of the Vijayanagara Empire. And honestly, if this story were a movie script, many people would call it unrealistic. Yet, it actually happened. To understand their story, we need to travel back to the early 1300s. At the time, South India was divided among several powerful kingdoms. The Yadavas ruled from Devagiri. The Kakatiyas controlled much of present-day Telangana and Andhra. The Hoysalas dominated parts of Karnataka, and the Pandyas ruled in the far south. But a new power was rapidly expanding from the north: the Delhi Sultanate. Its armies were pushing deeper and deeper into the Indian subcontinent. One by one, southern kingdoms began to fall. Think of it like a row of dominoes. As each kingdom collapsed, the next became vulnerable. And among those caught in this storm were two brothers, Harihara and Bukka. Historical records suggest that Harihara and Bukka served under the rulers of the small but fiercely independent kingdom of Kampili in present-day Karnataka. Kampili stood directly in the path of the Delhi Sultanate's expansion. In 1327, the armies of Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq launched a major campaign against the kingdom. The result was devastating. Kampili was conquered. Its ruler died resisting the invasion, and Harihara and Bukka were captured. For most people, that would have been the end of the story. But for these brothers, it was only the beginning. After their capture, Harihara and Bukka were taken to Delhi. According to several historical accounts, they entered the service of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Now, it's important to note that some details of this period remain debated among historians. Different chronicles tell slightly different versions, but most agree that the brothers spent time under the Sultan's authority before eventually returning south. And that's where the story takes a fascinating turn. Because Muhammad bin Tughlaq faced a constant problem: rebellions. His vast empire stretched across enormous distances, and keeping control was incredibly difficult. So when unrest erupted in the south, the Sultan needed trusted administrators and military leaders. Harihara and Bukka seemed like perfect candidates. He sent them back, perhaps believing they would help restore his authority. Instead, they would change the course of Indian history. Back in the south, the brothers entered a world in chaos. Many traditional kingdoms had been destroyed. Trade routes were disrupted. Political authority had collapsed in large regions. People wanted stability. They wanted leadership. And Harihara and Bukka saw an opportunity. But they also had another crucial ally: a scholar, philosopher, and spiritual leader known as Vidyaranya. Associated with the famous Sringeri Matha, Vidyaranya is believed to have played a major role in inspiring and supporting the brothers during this period. Together, they envisioned something ambitious: not just another kingdom, an empire, a powerful state capable of defending southern India and restoring political stability. In 1336, Harihara and Bukka established a new capital on the banks of the Tungabhadra river, a city surrounded by massive boulder-strewn hills and natural defenses, a place that would later become famous as Vijayanagara. Today we know its ruins as Hampi, and what a location it was. Imagine giant granite mountains, natural fortifications, strategic river access, rich agricultural land. It was like building a fortress, capital city, and economic hub all in one place. Harihara became the first ruler. Bukka served as his trusted partner and later succeeded him. Together, They laid the foundations of a state that would soon become the dominant power in South India. Creating a city is difficult. Creating an empire is much harder. Yet, Vijayanagara expanded with remarkable speed. The rulers strengthened their military. They restored trade networks. They encouraged agriculture. They built alliances. And they brought many fragmented regions under a single administration. Over time, the empire became one of the richest states in the world. Foreign travelers described enormous markets filled with jewels, spices, horses, silk, and precious metals. The capital city astonished visitors. Some compared it to the greatest cities they had ever seen. And all of this grew from the vision of two brothers who had once been prisoners. Think about that for a moment. The Delhi Sultanate captured them expecting obedience. Instead, they returned and built a rival power that would endure for more than 3 centuries. The story of Harihara and Bukka is not simply about warfare or politics. It's about resilience. History is filled with people who inherited powerful empires, but these brothers inherited defeat. They started with loss, uncertainty, and destruction. Yet, they transformed a shattered landscape into one of the greatest civilizations in Indian history. The Vijayanagara Empire would later produce legendary rulers such as Krishnadevaraya, become a center of art, literature, architecture, and trade, and leave behind monuments that still amaze the world today. And it all began with two brothers who refused to accept that their story was over. Because sometimes, the greatest empires are not born from victory, they are born from survival. And few stories prove that better than the rise of Harihara and Bukka Raya. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. What do you think was the most remarkable part of the Vijayanagara story? Their escape, the founding of the empire, or the incredible city of Hampi itself? Because history isn't about kings and wars alone. It's about the people who changed everything.